So thank you very much to everybody. My presentation, as the title says, is called Ludi Humani, Teaching Humanities with Video Games. And I chose this title, which means human games, because I really want to point out something that normally it is missed in every description of a video game. And this thing is that video games are a human creation made by humans and for humans, in spite of its technological aspect. So that is a question that it arises, that how humans are video game? I mean, how human is an activity such as playing video game? Or in other ways to say, can we become better humans or more humans, being human a social construction, just an idea, just by playing video game? That is, can we acquire emotions by playing video games? Or can we acquire self-knowledge, or cultural identity, or interculturalism, or morality, or in general wisdom? So the question here is that can video games be a source of humanity, or at least the reasons for which we study humanities? We study history in order to acquire cultural identity, interculturalism, some sort of wisdom or self-awareness. Can we do that with video games? Or first, let's start by a very interesting aspect that I see in video games, that is its emotional aspect. And I think it's something that really people miss. When people say here, they say, hey, where's the emotion? That this is nothing, this is pixels, this is well, we are talking about one of the first video games which that provided a story. This is could be compared like the first movies, where it was black and white, no text, no voice, only text, very raw emotions like violence, fear, but not psychological depth, for example. So I think we could compare that. For example, the first pre-Hellenic sculptures, where you see very not human statues, and you could say, oh, that is primitive art, that doesn't provide. Well, maybe it's a first step in the media. So let's play a little game. I'm going to show you pictures, and I would like you to state the first emotion or the first idea that comes to your mind when you see this movie, when you see this image. Emotions, please. Fear. Yeah. More? Mystery, thriller. Okay. Adventure, freedom. Okay. Violence. No. That is a problem. When we talk about violence, portrait of violence, we miss the emotional part. The emotional part of feeling like a superhero, doing things that in your boring, regular life you would never do. This is something. When this kid is playing video games, it's not just pushing buttons. It means stuff for the play. So it's a thing that we cannot miss. Not all the games are violence. This is, for example, a Spanish production, Los Ríos de Alicia, Alice Rivers, a very introspective and psychological video game. We have a fighting game, challenge, combativity. We have Limbo, games remarkable by its aesthetic component. It's a beautiful game indeed. We have Guitar Hero, where you can become a rock star. You have Candy Crush. Candy Crush is packed of beautiful emotions. It's beautiful, this challenge, expectations, the sense of mastery. Frustration. Frustration is a beautiful, and it is one of the most important emotions a game can teach you. How to lose. We would we would be very good people if we could learn how to lose in our regular life. So that is a very important topic that we are going to come back later. can drive cars, do war, practice our social interactions, more emotions, violence again, fear. And this is another thing. When we were talking about the violence, missing the emotions again. Do video games create violent people, bad people? Well, that is I see this as an emotional training. To tell the truth, or if I had to give my personal opinion, if you play this all your life, all your time, you can only play this, you only train this emotion, then you're going to be a very crappy person. But playing these video games is a new way of exploring emotions that you would never live in your normal, daily, regular life. So seeing this as an emotion, the emotion of fear, of survival, of challenging. In these kinds of games, you normally are a very punny, weak person, just like us, surrounded by an overwhelming situation. That is a very worthy and enriching life experience. So why to say no? But there are far more emotions, right? What emotions do these recall? I mean, love, friendship, commitment, visual, aesthetic emotions, no meaning, pure art, training our abstract capacities, adventure, the sense of awe, fantasy. I really don't know how to catalogate this, nor this, nor this, nor this. Even the simplest games, the games where there are no characters, even those are full of emotions. And you will never understand a video game. You will never understand a video game when you don't see emotions. What do all these images have in common? All of these are video games, or fall into the category of video games, of the name of video games. They are gathered by the experience, the emotion. People played not only to know a story sometimes, but they want to feel stuff. They want to feel stuff that in your real life, to tell the truth, it doesn't happen so much. So let's start a concept that is very important. Most of us, we teach, and it is gamification. Gamification, it has tons of literature about it. It has a lot of definitions. Gamification, for me, is taking what you get from video games into our schools, into our teachings, or into any activity. It could be a profitable activity. Here at Villanova, gamification, it is a course. It is taught in the business school. Professor Richard London teaches gamification, how to apply the principles of games in order to engage people in activities, any sort of activities. So the question would be, why video games? Why taking video games? Well, by definition, a video game, gaming is learning a game. When you play hide and seek, by playing it, you are learning hide and seek. If you play Candy Crush, by playing it, you are learning. So video games are not only emotionally engaging, they are ways of learning. A video game designer has expend a lot of energy and thoughts and money into create a learning device, a learning platform. So games are not boring, are actually designed to combat boredom, and they are by definition voluntary. Nobody can force you to play. Games is one of the very few activities that its definition requires voluntary. You can read if they force you. You can work, dig a hole if they force you. You cannot play if they force you. That's why we really want this in our education. And video games, they are very good at creating meaning. I mean, you are opening in Candy Crush with little shapes and color, and you give personal meaning to that. You give personal meaning to this score, this number that is your score, and it is so good to make the player give a meaning and make it relevant. And we could talk about that. There is an instinct to play. That humans, we are somehow designed to play. From when we are kids, and not only humans, most of mammals, we play. And some approaches teach us that actually we play in order to learn things. From the Huizinga's famous book, Homo Ludens, from other approaches. Puppies, they learn how to fight, how to defend by playing. Puppies play, and they are very enjoyable. So, since gamification is so overwhelming, it's the hotkey, it's everywhere in teaching methodology, I'm going to talk about two different and maybe not so different approaches. One is by Judy Willis, and the other is by James G. And actually, these two are kind of gurus of gamification, especially gamifications when it comes to video games. So, Judy Willis has created what we call the video game model, and it's actually the same that James G. is seeing video games, see why are they so compelling, and how can we make our education as compelling as video games. So, Julie comes to these conclusions. I'm really simplifying a work of neurobiology research. So Judy Willis says that video games are provide a goal very easy to buy. That games, you give a controller, you give a goal, and the player takes it as a goal, as, hey, let's do it. Why not? I mean, it's a challenge. It has a very important thing that Mesh pointed before. It is studied that on average, the time that you spend playing a video game, 80% of this time is failure. Pure failure. 80% of the activity. That is amazing. That is amazing. When we teach classes, when we teach Spanish, our main concern is to try to avoid people getting frustrated and saying, oh, I cannot do this, I cannot learn this, or feeling miserable for not knowing the Spanish conjugations. Video games teach by 80% rate, and still people persevere with increasing challenging. So you go to level 2, you know, because you are a player and you know that level 2 is going to be more complicated, and you buy it, and you're still playing. That is amazing. We want that in our education. We want that when people learn the preterite and knows the imperfect is coming, we want them to say, okay, bring it on. And there is a component of uncertainty and reward that really makes games, any kind of games or even gambling, compelling. Is that you never know when you are going to success, but oh, when you success, you feel amazing, right? It's like, I got it. We want that in our education. So James G., from a very different approach, he's a linguist, he studies discourse, but he studies video games as well. So he points 3 main aspects of why video games are very good at our teaching, or what should we take from video games. That is, how can we gamify education? First, it creates empowered learners. The learners have the control there. They are in charge of their education. So it's not the same when you try to pour information into the students, you talk at the students and you say, okay, you have to learn this, you have to learn this. That doesn't work, and we know that. We have to let the students take control, manipulate the information, take their pace, because sometimes people go faster, or they want to be faster, or they want to be slower. Empower learners is what we want in class. Video games are very well at designing problems, and it creates a system of education where it creates a problem, and the students wants to know how to solve problems. We don't want them to memorize. At the very end, we want them to be able to resolve problems in real life. So why not teaching them by a problem-oriented system? And the third is that it creates a deeper understanding. It doesn't just, they are not managing theory. They are not managing words in their mind. What are they managing? They are managing experiences. While playing it, they are living it. They are not only learning or reading or whatever. It is not abstract meaning. It is related to an experience. So it is related. You would say that it's not the same studying something and working in the field. Working in the field is normally more rewarded because it has a deeper understanding by action, meaning in action. So you would say, yeah, sure, good, sounds fantastic, awesome, magnificent, but has someone tried? And the answer is yes. I mean, we can change our education from how to design a test, from the core of the module. This is the paradigmatic Lee Sheldon's model. He created, I think he was the first time who saw education using experience point. Any gamer, especially teenage years, everybody knows what is XP, experience point. And this is the thing. When you complete a game, say Call of Duty, nobody asks you to take exam, right? Right? After filling the whole game, all the stages, you killed everybody, then you don't go to the exam. Why? Because you have proven that you know the stuff. You have been learning by progress. So basically, it's not that far from where we are in education, but it's flipping the system. Here, when they come to a class, by default, they have an A. And then they can screw it up and go back until a C, maybe, or a D, or an F. But we don't want that. Why don't we start from zero? And you acquire experience, and you learn levels. You forget about that. You earn levels. So you know that you didn't screw it up. You know that, and I shouldn't say screwed it up in a presentation. My apologies. They know that they can always improve. Know that how to not fall. And that is a problem, and I think it's a very interesting incentive. Paul Anderson has done the same in his class of biology, which he calls Biohazard 5. He has done a very you can see he's a normal teacher with a class, living people, nothing too nerd. But he has adopted and go even beyond. So we have a level system when it uses names related to biology. So level 1 would be primordial soup, and level 11 would be mountain gorilla. The idea is the same. You count from 0 exp until maximum exp. And in every level, there are a list of quests to do, skills to learn. So when you learn a skill, you can do more stuff, and you can increase your level by using that skill. And that is a method that apparently it works, and it has earned a big deal of attention to the teaching community. It is a path to follow, a very interesting one. So we have seen that we can learn from video games, and we can apply this knowledge from video games to our education. Why? Because they are problem-solving oriented. It increases communicational skills, improve attention, no linear thinking patterns, narrative skills. But the question is, why not using them? Not only copying them or copying the system, but actually using video games in order to teach. And when I wanted to look for an example, a very quick example of where can we find how to teach something via video game using gamified mechanisms, I came to this game, Loneliness, and I would like to, Meshed, please, could you come here, please? Okay, so this is a video game. It would consider an indie game. No, you have to come here. Thank you, darling. You're amazing. It froze. Está congelada la imagen.
meshed out here.
Ok.
No? Okay.
¿Y por qué no se ve? Oh, yeah, because we have to get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a video game. It's very easy. I would give you instructions, but actually a video game, you don't need instructions. You learn by playing it. So can you move the keyboards and
Just move.
play? Very good. Okay, so sorry, I need your assistance. How do we? Okay, Meshed, how do you feel? What do you think about this? Interesting. Very good. What kind of game is this? What this game was? I mean, what was the purpose of this game? It was very easy, right? It was text. It was teaching a statistical fact about a population in South Korea that reports loneliness as the main cause of.
Which one?
Yeah. Anyway.
No, which one? Where you?
Don't you say it?
Oh, okay. Forgot about
From loneliness. Yeah. That reports loneliness as their main problem. So we can either pour the information to you, give you the fact, quick fact, or you can make people feel it, or make people play it, experience, manipulate. Actually, we could see a lot of Meshed personality here. I know Meshed personally, and I know she's a very social person. So she never desists. She has always rushing to the bits and not accepting people rejecting her, or not giving up. Many other people just give up in the very first because they cannot couple with they cannot they don't like the feeling of rejection, so they just keep going. So we can learn a lot of ourselves by playing a very simple video game with a dot, with a gray background, and we can teach, meaning in a very, very deep way, in a very meaningful way. So you would say, what's the difference? Here you have one of the most popular educational games, which is the Oregon Trail, very popular in America. People taught history for decades, maybe 20. Does anybody of you know it? You? Maybe you? Okay, this is a rather popular video game. People teaching that for 10 years maybe. And here we have a blockbuster. Here we have Assassin's Creed, a very popular game. So what is the difference? Any difference? Okay, well, what is more appealing? Yeah, this one, right? The colorful, the one that is designed to sell, the one that is designed to entertain, to combat boredom, to convey emotions. I mean, dying of dysentery is terrible, but it's not conveying a very emotional way, right? I mean, it's really hard to feel stuff by reading you have died of dysentery. But these games are far more appealing and far more compelling. Any gamer, I would say even any teenager would know that this is Constantinople in the early 16th century, or that this is Boston in the revolutionary times, or that this is Florence. Actually, these games have a very, a reasonable reproduction of the city as it were. It has a lot of historical design, historians working on this, and it is very, very well designed. So many teachers have used these games. Right now, Professor, did you have an example of somebody using this game?
One of my colleagues in Italian at University of Delaware uses this game in particular to teach about Renaissance Italy.
Wow, interesting, very interesting. Yes, I mean, people can really learn about this. And you would say, hey, but this is fiction. Come on, this is fiction. You cannot learn from fiction. And you may be true. I mean, this is not a text, a history text, but you can not, it doesn't substitute a teacher. It doesn't substitute a guy, but it can be used as a tool. It can be really used as a very efficient, appealing portal to a piece of knowledge that nobody has access here, especially in the United States. It's very expensive to travel to Florence, and even if you try to go to Florence, you will never time travel, right? So, what is that? It's Venice. And everybody will know, I mean, I have friends, even very young, that they say, hey, this is St. Mark's Square, and this guy is buried there. I mean, they teach history, or they are a very interesting portal to learning history. Just a little caveat that sometimes it can get really annoying is that yes, people and children, but people in general, they can distinguish between what is real and what is fictional. And this is maybe a gratuitous caveat, but it is very, very important that people normally would say, yeah, but it's fiction. They will believe that you can actually have superpowers or you can actually climb this high. No, okay. These are, people can learn from fiction by never mixing history and fiction. So let's talk about some sort of games, not as this is an action-oriented game. There are some games that they are actually simulating games. And there is this book about a teacher of history that uses video games in order to teach history. There are a lot of games that actually you take control of a faction or you take control of a country, and you have to recreate the past. Sometimes, and most of them, you can not following the history, but altering and manipulating the history. And this is very interesting because these simulation games present history as history as something more than a story. Normally, they tell us that, the history is just a tale that they tell you, and things happened because they had to happen. And I don't know, the United States, it is a democracy because it had to do, because that is the story, that is the plot. Actually, history is far more complicated. It is people making choices, and actually sometimes these choices are kind of arbitrary, and in other cultures and maybe the choices have been different. So by understanding the tools of operating that, you play a game, you are in the Middle Ages, and you play the role of a monarchy, and you explore what is the role of religion, and you can exploit the religion as a tool, or you can see demographics, or you can see how commerce and war are related, and how what is the relation between a metropolis and its colonies, if it is profitable, if it is not, what kinds of, all of this you can really learn. And you can learn it by seeing obstacles, seeing problems, and seeing how to solve them. And actually many teachers have used this kind of this kind of games. This is one of my favorite series, is Europa Universalis. You cannot teach people Latin with that title, but what you can do is you can teach history. You can set any day in any week in any year of history, and the game will reproduce the borders to the level of nobility families. So you can see how were the Dukes of Alba were doing in this particular set of time. Then you can go mad. Then you can try, if you play as the Vatican, you can conquer whatever. You can go to Denmark. You can explore, but you will find obstacles. You will find tools to operate with new problems. And actually many professors and teachers are using this to teach history. Let's finish with one of my favorite from when I was younger. Now the series is not that good. It is the Dynasty Warriors series. And you would say that this is the perfect example of a frivolous game, totally unrealistic. Isn't it cool? So it is a hack and slash. It's a game where you play a warrior from the Han Dynasty, the times of the three Romans, from the Romans of the Three Kingdoms, which is one of the most important pieces of literature or works of literature for the Chinese history. So you can play this, you can wipe people out, it's very fun. And it has a humongous content of history. You have to learn in order to play. What was the Yellow Turban Rebellion? Where is Yu Hong? Where were the factions? What were the problems of these factions? What problems had to deal with? So you can learn a lot by playing video games, and not only the hack and slash. I mean, of course, you learn very little from that. You get emotions, but apart from that, it's very frivolous. And actually, the game comes with an encyclopedia. And that's amazing because the player sometimes has to go there. And if you really like it, as I did when I was a teenager, actually, some of you would go to the real novel. And it is a novel, a historical novel, half history, half literature, and it is a fantastic. And I'm completely sure, I'm positive that I would never learn this if not for Dynasty Warriors. Then it comes the question, yeah, but it's fiction. You cannot learn real stuff from fiction. You have to go to textbooks. You have to go to the straight dope. You cannot go to a video game. Okay, here we have a portrait of Lu Bu, one of the fiercest fighters in this period in the Han Empire. You have here a representation portrait as Dynasty Warriors 5, and you have a King Dynasty block print, which is more fictional. Any? Anna? which is more fictional. I mean, you would believe that, right? Because I mean, you would believe that because this is history. This is old stuff. This is an 18th century blog about events that happened in the 1st century. So actually, this is far more fictional and far less documented. And you have to take my word. This is far less documented than this. This has a lot of research. This has a lot of people and a culture. I mean, that we are learning from the past. So just because it's a video game, that doesn't mean that it's not well documented or well informed. And just because it's old or it is in paper, that means that it is true. Sometimes, there is no textbook 100% accurate. It is the role of the teacher to guide the students and tell them what to believe, what to not believe, what to think about. And closing my presentation, teaching about the possibility of teaching literature with video games. There are far more things that you can learn from literature. I remember I had a workshop, a literary workshop, where we read, my friends in London, we were reading plays, we were discussing about that. And actually it was because a game where we had the biggest issue about philosophical, about literature events, and it was about a discussion about Stanley's Parable. So think twice when you think that video games cannot teach you. Actually, video games sometimes are very good portraits of real masterpieces. You have a refashionated Alice in Wonderland, and you have a refashionated Dante's Inferno, which they have nothing to do with the originals. And the good thing is that, especially for this app, you have to read the original in order to complete the game, in order to understand anything of this game. So it is amazing that they are they are pushing people to go to read. And this is something that we definitely want in our classes. This game, the same. There is a character, Virgil, that you find in La Commedia, you find it here, and actually Virgil reads you aloud the verses of the Commedia. So it is not only a portal, it's not only an incentive to go read, but it's actually conveying you part of the text. So I think it's not neglectable at all. So conclusions is that a humanistic approach to video games is possible. We can see them as emotional training, that we can learn from video games, how video games work, how video games appeal, how video games engage, and then we can learn with video games, that video games teach us things. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope this was a very little step in order to see video games as a human product. Okay, thank you.